Michelangelo, but especially Michelangelo really got the shaft because like he was hardly in any. What did you say?
Oh, I just said that's unfortunate because I really like his character too.
Yeah, some people, when it came to Michelangelo, they're just like, dang, he's kind of boring. I was just like, I mean, he's supposed to be the type where he's just kind of that guy you're around. He's like, he's not really supposed to be super deep. Like, you know, there's always that like one friend where you're just like, I like being around you. You don't talk a lot, but like, you're just kind of there.
Like, he just has a really, I would call it like a rich internal life, you know? Like, he feels like that guy that has a lot going on under the surface, doesn't feel like sharing it, and it's not like a he doesn't like or trust you thing. It's just like a, yeah, this is my stuff. This is my stuff. You don't really need to see it, which is also why, like, when Serenity and Michelangelo are paired, I tried really hard to kind of make it like a, I don't know, to connect it to his sense of purpose, because I agree, I feel like he was kind of hard to grasp initially.
Yeah. And then the twins, well, Tanner didn't have the route. Did you want to see a town? Did you want to see a Tanner route for Aria or not?
I just assumed, like, initially, I was like, oh, Ty and Tanner are there to fight over Layla, for sure. So I feel like this is gonna sound like, what's the word? I'm not sure what the word for it is. I feel like Ty and Tanner kind of have that thing that a lot of twins have, where it's like their identities are so tied up in each other that it's like, nah, having just one for Ty was enough. Which, you know, isn't to say they don't both have their own personalities, but it does feel like they're close enough to each other that it's like, for general audiences and players, like, I feel like they got what they needed from the experience. They might disagree and can totally sound off. I'm not always right, but that's just kind of my take on it. Like, it didn't bum me out at all that there wasn't like a Tanner route.
Yeah, like, cause I was just like, if we did Tanner out, he would be like the final boss, like the tsundere essentially, where he's like, I don't like you, get away. He would be like the
route, like the Partridge in Hateful Boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, it turns into a turn-based RPG, and he's just like,
like, basically, like, he's like the very aggressive dog that you have to earn the loyalty to, while Ty is literally the golden retriever. He's like, oh my goodness, I like you already. Like,
God, I love dogs.
Which is so funny because you mentioned that in one of your routes. It's just like, good boy. He's like, woof,
yeah, I bet. I love dogs.
And then for Ty, yeah, because they are really linked together, but since Ty has the route, do you think he was more fleshed out than Tanner, or they're just like the same?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Because Ty's the one who actually has the data bowl route. Do you think he's more fleshed out, or they're the same regardless?
I feel like, just by virtue of having the chance to get to know him in a route, like, that does distinguish them from each other. I think that is kind of unfortunate for Tanner as a character. Like, if we're talking about depth of character specifically, yeah, Ty's automatically gonna have more of a personality. But, like, I don't know. I guess as I'm kind of thinking about it, specifically that dance scene, which I think is in Damien's route. It might have been Silver's. But yeah, that scene where, like, they're busting it down and Tanner's trying to get attention but can't, and he just kind of pouts. I'm like, oh.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's, I think,
he feels like the less exceptional twin. Like, he is kind of overshadowed by his brother in a lot of cases, and I think by that measure too, it's kind of appropriate Ty gets a route and he doesn't. Like, it all adds to the sense you get of that character in that way, you know.
I technically do have like a DLC written for Tanner, not like as a love interest, but like a backstory of basically how they all met, like Layla and the twins, and why Tanner is so into Layla even beforehand. But like, it's just like, making the visual novel is like, I don't want to. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to do it. So
I don't want to do it. I don't think Kumar wants to do it. We're just gonna backburner that one.
so yeah, it's literally on the back burner, but like it's there. And then like I was gonna add like the DLC, the missing boys night out that we have written already, but like that didn't make sense where to add it. So that was gonna be like his own game, because like it was gonna be like, oh, because you couldn't date Tanner, here's the reason why. So
Right. No, that makes sense.
so I don't know if people would actually want to see that, but like I just thought it was like, I don't know, it was something that was in my head that I was like, at least flesh him out this much, since we couldn't really flesh him out as a
I was say, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask, because I mean, dropping some personal lore. Visual novel wise, it's like I've always liked them in concept and watched a lot of like summaries of them. But when I got into this game, I was like, I need to start doing some serious research and play through a lot more of these. Which is insane to say as someone who's like written routes for visual novels in the past and not consumed as many of them. But like basically since I came onto this project, I think I've played like 15 or something, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I've been missing out.
It's so funny you say that, because I'm not even the visual type, the visual novel audience. Like,
for real?
yeah, it was so funny. That's why I took so many liberties, because I was just like, well, what is something I would want to see in a visual novel? Because like the reason I don't like playing visual novels is because I'm like, I already know what's gonna happen. Like, that's because I'm like, I've seen so many K-dramas. I'm like, okay, there's gonna be a love triangle. You have to decide who you want, etc., etc. ABC, like, like that's why I was like, this is good.
Think you would really enjoy. Have you heard of Jack John?
I haven't.
Oh my god, it's so sick. It's technically a visual novel, but it's also like a stat raiser, and it's also a rhythm game.
Ooh, oh yeah.
So you're like, basically, you're this girl who gets into this really prestigious school that's supposed to be all-boy theater troupe. Because your brother was in, and the director is like, your brother was the best actor we had, and now we're embarrassing ourselves. Will you come in and be as good as he was, please? Thank you. Just don't let anyone know you're a girl. And so like and that's part of what makes it nice, is like the romance isn't super gooey, because you have to conceal from everyone that you're a girl. So the male love interests don't know you're a girl until like the end. Your relationship develops as a really sweet, non-objectifying friendship. And because it's theater, you actually go through and do like 5 plays through the course of the visual novel, which includes like rhythm games and like acting choices that like impact the ending and the award level you get as a class. And it's just like, it's so next level. I was like, this is so innovative. I haven't 100%ed it yet because it's a pretty long one, but oh my god, it's so good.
It reminds me of all the shoujo and manga I would read, where it's just like, you have to conceal yourself because your brother's essentially a deadbeat, but we love him more anyway.
Right. It's like Nina the Starry Bride. It's like what's the other one? Oh, Seiyu Voiceover Academy.
Yeah, I like I think it's because there's like something that you get to do aside from just the reading aspect. So like, which is something I wanted to add in this game, but I couldn't because it's too much work. It's too much work.
A lot of extra programming.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, you know, if it was like, if we had that, because I was trying to figure out, I was like, how did Doki Doki work so well? Like, how did it get so popular? I was like, it's so much reading. And so we were discussing this because I did get a lot of inspiration from Doki Doki. I got a little bit of inspiration from Class of 09 in terms of like being comedy, like, and like changing it up, like with like having unexpected tropes. And then I got the inspirations from like Love and Deed Space. But by the way, Silver was made before Silas, by the way. I'm just saying. Like, Like, I had him thought out before Silas was even out. So, same with Damien. I had his original concept before.
Ahead of the curve.
But we're just not as popular. So I'm just saying.
That needs to change.
So give us a 5-star on Ishtai or whenever you play the game. Anywho, but yeah, we're like, I was just like, can you actually play Doki Doki more than once? Like once you know the all the plot twists. And I mean, some people can, but like we were talking about how like not really. I think that's really what hooked people is that it was a plot twist, kind of like how Class of 09 is a rejection sim. Because like honestly, I don't like Class of 09. Like I think it's like funny for like a little bit, but then it gets tiresome after a while.
Yeah,
because...
I never touched it.
Okay. Okay. Instead of Serenity ending up with Michelangelo, I was going to have her by herself, as she was the one talking about boyfriend. It was supposed to be the kind of thing where she realizes she wasn't ready to have a boyfriend, and there's no need to rush. Do you think that would have been good to see, or would it have betrayed the audience?
I feel like Serenity specifically would have been the perfect character for that, because I know like a lot of, well, first of all, it's often considered a bad end when the actual protagonist ends up alone, which, first of all, silly. There are worse things than ending up alone for sure. Like you could end up with Silver, you know. But I feel like specifically with Serenity, because she's more of like a supporting character, her having that realization, like if you're gonna have someone end up with no one, that kind of makes the most sense to me, because if Layla ends up alone, it's like whatever, she doesn't give a damn. That's not transformation for Layla, like that's just circumstances. But for Serenity, I think if there was a route that included her ending up alone, like that would be something that develops her as a character and really shows a good arc. So yeah, I think that would have been pretty cool. I do really enjoy how the route where she ends up with Michelangelo turned out, but I could see it going either way.
Yeah, because I don't yeah, she doesn't have a route where she ends up with Finn. So like, I would have liked to have seen, like, let's say hypothetically we made the canon route for Aria, just so we can have the Serenity have a route where she doesn't end up with anyone. I think that would be the only purpose of it. It's just like, we want to see that. Like, we're just like,
Serenity, we just need you to take a chill pill for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. It's just
Can
like,
you please stop thinking about men for like just a sec?
It's just like, you know what? I realize I'm a bit boy crazy. I don't need to be. I was like, I got a lot going on.
I'm boy crazy. I have internalized fat phobia. Like, I think maybe I need to take a minute and work on myself. Yeah, like, ugh.
Oh, since you mentioned that, what made you think she had an internalized fat phobia?
I think just the way she like approached the conversation, just about like, oh yeah, I exercised a whole bunch. I used to be fat and that was a problem. On the other hand, it's like she made a choice that was right for her. I just think sometimes like I feel sad that that's like she heralded that for herself as such an accomplishment. But at the same time, like, I don't think it would have made sense for her character to just like take such an accomplishment lightly. So it's like I'm kind of two minds on it, you know. I think the good news though is she never, as someone, I'm kind of backpedaling on my own thought here, because now that I'm thinking about her relationship with Layla, I don't feel like she ever like pushed it on her. So I think that's probably different.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she never like shamed Layla for her weight, or was like, oh, if you lost weight, your clothes would be cuter. So, yeah, maybe not so much.
Yeah, that's why I was like trying to see what your perspective.
You're like, wait, what are you talking about?
Well, no, it's because with the purpose of my writing, I always try to make it either confusing or could be interpreted in multiple ways.
Yeah,
so that...
and I think there's something to be said for that too. Like, I definitely think you could interpret her that way, But I think that like where you get her character really coming through is like the what's the word? Like even if it's something she struggled with herself, she doesn't make it everyone else's problem, which I think is kind of what I like about her. Like she's not into creating problems for other people. She's into like trying to improve the lives of everyone around her, and that's like her motivating. It seems like that's like her entire motivation in life. She's like, I make videos so people can be happy, and I force my friends to try new things, and am constantly gassing them up. Like, and I just love that about her. I love that she loves so intensely, like on a platonic level.
Because when you mentioned about the you thought she had internalized fat phobia, someone else thought she had an eating disorder. I was just like, oh, what made you interpret that? Because
I was gonna say I think that's totally something you could argue based on the text. I don't know if I would go that far, but yeah, like I can see why they would think that based on like but also I think it's just that some folks are really eagle-eyed when it comes to eating disorders. Like if you have an eating disorder, you're gonna see that representation in anyone who's lost weight in media. And I say that as a person who like in my past has struggled with that myself. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I guess I could see it, but I never really, with the level of like confidence and self-awareness that she has about herself, I'm just not sure I see that for her.
So like, so I made sure to make sure, that the relationship between Serenity and Layla was developed more than Aria and Layla, because Serenity and Layla are contrasts. So like they both were overweight and they both worked out, but Serenity is the one who got like the ideal body, while Layla has the more plus size. And I think that leads to one of my other questions. Let me get the that way we don't go back.
There's Michelangelo. Hey boy, hey.
Where is?
Oh, he's so cute. What the hell? Oh my god, I never saw his final design. Oh, I love it so much.
You're so crazy for silver. So funny.
I really am. I don't know how this happened, because I, like, the whole time I was working on Damien's route, I'm like, this guy is such a like, he makes me so mad. But now I'm looking back on it, I'm like, oh, he's so sweet. He's such a nice boy.
Yeah, someone got so mad when when they played through the silver route. They're like, this is not Silas. Silas does not show off his money. Like, he would buy stuff, but he would he's not there to show it off. I was like,
exactly. It's not Silas. So
yeah. But I was just like, maybe there's a reason for that though.
See, I just loved the idea of this I don't know, like this boy who sees that as his most desirable trait and secretly like doesn't even realize that what he needs is to be recognized for who he is rather than what he has. That's always been like my interpretation, is like he doesn't necessarily have the confidence to back up like, I'm a good, worthwhile person on my own. So he feels like, oh, I'll make people like me by buying them stuff.
That's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah, I'm like, I just connect, like, not that I've ever been fabulously wealthy, but like that idea of having to do things for people and having to like have a transactional nature to your relationships. I give you XYZ and I receive love. I don't know, it's like, it's very relatable, just feeling like you don't stand on your own merit and it's more about how useful you are to people. And I thought that like having him reflect that idea in a way of like being rich being his go-to trait, like I just thought that was really neat and relatable, even though it's like a billionaire character, you know, which is difficult to accomplish.
I think it's Life of Seki K. There's this character who has all this money. And that's his character. That is literally his character. I think they try to flush him out. But what I was trying to do with Silver was basically the template was that character. And then I was gonna add trauma to him. but the thing was, Kumar's like, you can't add too much trauma. Because I was just like, it was when he dates Aria, I was gonna be like, and then everyone he knew died. And he's like, don't do that. He's like, don't do
that. He doesn't have to be that sad.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, I guess we'll fix it up a bit. And so like,
everything nice, but you accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction. Trauma.
But when you actually look at what Silver does, like even if he does like essentially buy people off, he does like help them out too, in a sense, like
he thinks he's doing what's best for them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so like I remember the restaurant scene where the deconstruction salad. And so Silver's like, you know what, we'll just buy everything. And then he's like, but you guys can eat the rest, whatever we don't eat that we don't touch. And so like, and it's just like, oh cool, you guys got like all this food now that you guys don't have to pay for.
Right? You're welcome.
Yeah, but at the same time they have to make it. So like
therapy, like he needs therapy to recognize that he doesn't necessarily always know best, and he needs therapy to recognize like you're a good boy. You don't need to flaunt your wealth all the time. You're just a good little guy. Like ugh.
So okay, the question that I was trying to get with Layla and Serenity. It was like, would Layla be? This was more for like a Layla specific question, but I think it kind of fits with Serenity's question. Would Layla be any less of a character if she had a different body type? Each girl has a different figure. Serenity was curvy, Aria was slender, and Layla was a thick but toned. Would it change her character if she was Serenity or Aria's figure in the future? If so, why? And then the background. Serenity and Layla have similar backgrounds, but were overrated. Except Serenity got the quote-unquote body goals. When you see like weight life experience, like here's how you get the hourglass body.
Yeah, for sure. So as someone who's like fitness journey probably more closely fit Layla's, just because I like, you know, you go to the gym and you're like, I'm gonna get so skinny, and then instead I put on like a silly amount of muscle, and then some insulation for winter. So it's like, I feel like Layla embodies an attitude I see in a lot of girls that have that more heavy set figure, which is like, oh, obviously he's not looking at me like he likes me. Obviously, like, it wouldn't be me, or we're just pals. And it's because they're like constantly put in that position where it's like, you're not not that being objectified is a good thing, but you know what I mean. Like, you're not, I can't easily objectify you, therefore you are friend, you know? And I think that like that attitude is really reflected in a lot of her dialogue. Even if she's like fine with the way she looks, there's still that implicit assumption that she always has in the back of her head. So I think that if she turned out looking like Serenity, that might make her more conscious of what's going on, just because like it would be very difficult to deny that you have such a body, which, to be fair, people with eating disorders, for example, like all the time, it's never good enough, so it could still be a thing. But I just feel like for her especially, I don't know, I kind of see that playing out differently. But additionally, she's just so... A big part of her character is just that she has this incredible strength that she doesn't really think anything of. She's like, oh yeah, I lifted a car, no big. And so it's just kind of like... Yeah, I don't know if I could see her, like, I don't know if it would be natural for her to remain the same character with a different body type. And I think that what's really cool about that is it really shows, like, how representation impacts a character. I know you and I talked a lot about this during production, where it's like, you can't just paint a character with a skin tone and, like, have that not impact the reality of their character and how they developed as a person. And I think that goes with body type too. It's like the bodies we inhabit does inform our life experience, and therefore informs our development of like our personality and our beliefs. So yeah, no, I think she would be fundamentally different. How she would be different, not entirely sure. But I do think that like it would make a difference if she was as well written as she was in the version that we put out.
Yeah, it's crazy that you mentioned that, because with Serenity, she is multicultural, and with that aspect, a lot of people are also kind of afraid to voice her because she's multicultural. Not only that, a lot of people also, if they play the game, they kind of give you like criticism for like not giving the correct pronunciation of like certain words. But like, I find it as like kind of like a step up, like to even have someone even say that in the first place. Like Serenity says "kuso" like as in run in Japanese. So like when she says "oh hola amiga," like you know she's just saying what she says because that's just part of her language. Even though the game is predominantly in America, but because she has that influence, she will just burst out saying different languages, just kind of like Michelangelo does. And it's just like, you know, if Layla said this, but we didn't give context to her background, it wouldn't make sense. So like, I feel like, you know, with her design, it makes sense. And
yeah.
Yeah,
Totally. And I think that like well, honestly, like that was if I remember we talked in the beginning where I was like, are you sure this is okay? Because like I'm not really Japanese and I don't speak any Spanish, but you know, with her being like actually Spanish as opposed to like Mexican makes a big difference culturally and all that. And then she was adopted, wasn't she?
she is Japanese with Latin heritage, so she is biracial essentially. So she has like one family member from one side and another from the other side.
That's right. She's what the Japanese call half.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we don't really say over here, but it's not offensive in Japan, so I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, so she's like quote unquote half.
Yeah.
And so I think that like what's really interesting about her too, just because, you know, she's kind of a globetrotter, first of all. Like, she lived in Spain for a while, she lived in Japan, now she's in America at university. Like, a lot of that is going to impact the way you speak when you have that kind of global experience. And it's kind of like, I don't know. It's interesting because, like, a lot of the ways she's written, she feels to me like the quintessential American girl, and I think that's because when I was a kid, long ago,
back in my day,
we were proud of America being a melting pot. You know what I mean? Personally, I think we still should be. Like, I think that's badass. I think it's really cool that this Japanese Spanish girl can go to an American campus and have no problem making friends, and just like, I don't know, just she just has such spirit, you know. But all that being said, yeah, totally. Like, I hear folks on the pronunciation thing. I won't even begin to argue with that. Because, like, yeah, it's true. But we're also in a position where, keep in mind, like, I kind of stepped in at the 11th hour because we were screwed and this game was not going to get released.
You literally came in last second. It's like, hey, yes. Can you
we're like, I'm out of options. I don't have time to do like a full 2-3 week affair of going through auditions and going through all this stuff. Yeah. And again, like, I will never say that like authentic representation doesn't matter. But I also think, yeah, this was a situation where it's like, she's from a European country, like, I feel fine about stepping in, all things considered.
Which is something, when it comes to me, when it comes to voicing, like, because, you know, Japan has English dub, and it's just like, you know, the people who are voicing them are not gonna be Japanese. So, like, to me, when it comes to voicing a character, it's not that I don't care about representation, but I'm like, the character is still being represented. So, like, I'm gonna go for the voice that suits the character. So, like, because I know some people might have an issue with that. It's just like, yes, if it best suits the character, then that's the character I'm going with, or the person I'm going with, because the character is still gonna be represented in the parts. So.
Yeah, that's true. Like, they're still on screen and there's still visibility, and I think that, like, again, in a perfect world, like, we might have been able to find casting for someone who, like, speaks Spanish natively or speaks Japanese natively. For me, I only speak Japanese as my second language, and I speak no Spanish, which is frankly, like, kind of a problem for someone who lives in a country where it's our second most popular language, but I'm getting there. I have plans to learn it someday. But,
crazy how you learned Japanese first.
I know, it's because I mean, it's obvious. I was a little weeb growing up, and I was like, I want to play video games that aren't going to get released here. That means I have to learn to read, which means I kind of have to learn how to speak, and yeah. So it took a while, but yeah, all things considered, that's kind of the bottom line is, like, I'm so glad she's getting representation. I feel like in a perfect world, like, I would not have been the perfect performer for her, but super stoked about the opportunity to play her, and super, like, yeah, I don't know, super into it. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. Like, it was just kind of planets didn't align in a way that allowed us to, like, find that boy.
I think it still worked out.
I think it worked out okay.